purpose of this video is to teach you how to find measures of variation using Google Sheets. I will be working number 3 in section 3.2, which is on page 122 of your textbook. Number 3 talks about the epoxy that is used on the NASA Space Shuttle. They were testing the strength of this brand of epoxy called Kevlar. Strands of the epoxy were tested at a 90% breaking strength, and the data represents time to failure in hours for a random sample of 50 data values. So I typed in these data values in column A, and as you can see, I have typed in 50 data values. We'll begin with the range. As we learned, the range of a data set is the highest value minus the lowest value. So we'll be using an equal sign, and that will allow us to put commands in. So we will use max, which will give us the highest value, and you can highlight your data and it will type in that range of data. So I will just press enter. Now, as you can see here, A2 to A51 is where our data is, and I'm going to copy that so I don't have to continue to type it each time. But the max is the range is the max minus the minimum value. So we want the minimum of our data values. And now we press enter, and the range of our data is 7.87 hours. And I just typed these in here just to be ready to find each of these. The sum, which is our sigma x, our summation, is to add up all of our data values. So I will type in an equal sign, and I will type in sum, and now I can just right click and paste that range of data. So the sum of all of our data values is 6.62.11 hours. Now we'll talk about the sum of squares, and the sum of squares is 0.54 squared plus 3.34 squared plus 1.81 squared, and so forth. So we will type in an equals sign here, and you can type in SU, and you can see down here where it says SUMSQ, and that will give us the sum of squares of our data. And I just right click and pasted that. So the sum of squares of our data is 164.23 hours. Let's find the mean of our data, which is X bar, and of course we know that's the same as an average, so I will type in average and then our range of data, and the mean of our data is 1.24 hours. So the mean of the 50 data values was 1.24 hours before the strands of epoxy failed. Now we'll talk about the variance, and of course you can type in a VAR and that comes up, and the variance of our data is 1.78 hours. The standard deviation, you can see just typing in an ST, it comes up, and press enter, and the standard deviation of our data is 1.33 hours. Finally, we will talk about the coefficient of variation, and as we learned in class, the coefficient of variation is the standard deviation divided by the mean of the data. So we could go ahead and type equals and standard deviation. You can also grab these values and divide them by each other, but this way you can see how to find it if you didn't have those data values. So you wouldn't have to have any of this in order to find the coefficient of variation if you just took the standard deviation and divided it by the mean of the data. Now, let's talk about what we get. 1.07. As we learned in class, the coefficient of variation is a percentage. I can either change the format of this answer and change it to a percentage, or you can go up here to where your commands are and type in a star, which is multiplication times 100, and then you get 107.31%. So our coefficient of variation, of course, is in percent. I hope this video has helped you, and good luck.